Hello and welcome. Today I am showing you how to make a quilted scored background using the new Altenew Ornamental Flower Stamp and Die Set. This is new to Altenew and I was so excited to get to use it. I think that it turned out beautiful, the stamped image, and so if you want to see how I made this card, keep watching. So I've got all of my supplies out. My Misty, the cardstock I am using for this, for the stamping for this card is Nina Classic Crest 80 pound. This is the smooth cardstock. And I've got my stamp set, and it's really, really neat. If you buy a new stamp set from Altenew, they now include, that's like a stamped layering stamp set. They now include the instructions on the way that the layering process works. And I found this really, really helpful as I made this card. I referenced it many times, and I'm really happy that they're now including that on their packaging. So I am just taking that first, the most solid layer, which is the first layer, and putting it down in my Misty. You certainly don't need a Misty to do stamp layering. However, I think it is a lot easier if you have a Misty to be able to do it. It's much easier to line it up properly, especially a lot of these stamps, they're a little bit more intricate. So I've sped up this process of the video, the portion where I'm stamping, and I ended up having to stamp that first layer 3 times to get it so that it wasn't patchy, to get even coverage. But honestly, it doesn't matter. That first layer, if it does not turn out perfect, that's fine because you're basically stamping over it 3 more times. And so you'll end up covering the area that's a little bit patchy. Even if you don't think you will, you probably will. So even after that first layer, you can really see it coming to life. So I'm trying to decide which is the next layer and using that. This is the layering set I'm using is the Red Cosmos ink cube set. It's a little bit more pink in tone. I know that the one that they just released is a little bit more coral in tone, and I thought about buying it and then I didn't, and now it's on order. It's coming to me someday soon because I needed that one too. So just stamping that final layer there, and you can really see it is really, really beautiful and very realistic looking. I had a little bit of a hard time with the center and getting this all lined up. This was the very first time I had ever used this stamp set. So it was a little bit of a learning curve, and I'm sure the next time I use it, it will be a lot easier to use it. There's like 6 to 8 pieces for that middle. And I've seen people do it where they use 2 different colors for the middle, and I think that would be really beautiful as well. I love the way that that looks when I see that on other people's cards. Again, I'm using that little guide from the packaging that I just cut off the back of the packaging, and that's, like I said, extraordinarily helpful to be able to line this up. I'm sorry that the back of my head keeps getting in this. I'm just leaning over to make sure everything lines up properly and perfectly because obviously I want this to come out nicely. So these are the last 2 layers, so I just took them both off the little sheet there to be able to get these lined up. So nearly finished with the flower stamping. And then I move on to stamp the leaves. So there are actually quite a few leaves in this stamp set. So 2 large ones that have layering and 3 smaller ones. And I stamp out the smaller ones and then I end up not using them. So this is the new green set from Altenew. I forget what the 4 cube is called, but I'll have it linked down below. I really like this set of greens. It's a little bit lighter in tone, and I feel like a little bit more realistic, even though I guess in real life, like a lot of leaves are a lot darker. Anyways, I know that there's another green set that they have, and the last color is black. And I don't have that in cube set, but it really turns me off because that last color is black. It just seems like it's going to be very off to me, but perhaps I'm the only one. So here I am pulling out those smaller leaves. I stamp them and then I don't use them. And I'm stamping them in that middle color. So here I cut out the process of me die cutting them. So I'm just putting those off to the side. And here I am doing the background. So I am scoring this background. I've put it on an angle because I want it angled and not straight on. So I'm scoring this at every 1/4 of an inch. So I go one side every 1/4 of an inch, and then I'll turn the cardstock over and do it on the other side every 1/4 of an inch. I think that this Martha Stewart scoreboard is no longer available. However, any score tool that you have will be able to do this. This creates the look of an embossing folder without you having to buy an embossing folder. So this is truly a use what you have and make it work. Not my last video, but the video before that, I think, I did a white embossed background. I'm just really into the way that this looks right now, like a white embossed background with simple stamping. I think it looks really clean and simple and beautiful. So here I'm getting out my stuff to heat set a sentiment. This is an older stamp set. It's Altenew Penned Rose, and there's a lot of really great greetings in this one. So I reach for it a lot when I have sets like this Oriental Flower set that has no greeting in the set. Honestly, I try to not buy stamp sets without greetings. I find it easier creatively when the stamp set has everything I need in it, if that makes sense. So it has the images and a sentiment that I'm trying to use, but that's okay. This works out well too. So I'm using my anti-static power tool liberally on my black cardstock because I'm gonna do white heat setting. If any of those little flakes, black on white, it's very obvious. So this is some Hero Arts white embossing powder, and instead of using the spoon, I just dip it in because it's right on the end. And so I am gonna just put that back. If I just use Versamark on a stamp, I don't clean it off. I'm sure I'm supposed to, but I don't. So I had a few places where there was some stray powder, just took a paintbrush to wipe those off. And now I'm bringing in my heat tool and I am going to heat set that sentiment. I probably should have let my gun heat up a little bit longer here because it took a little bit longer than I was hoping for to get that heat set. This is 2 times fast, by the way. The coloring or the stamping was 4 times fast. The rest of this video is 2 times fast, just for length purposes, because nobody wants to sit here and watch me make one card for 40 minutes because that's how long it takes me to make one card. So I'm using my Fiskars trimmer and realizing that I should have cut down the short side first and that I was never going to get it, to be stable. And I would start cutting and it would move. So I ditch this trimmer and I get out my Tim Holtz guillotine trimmer. Is anybody else really jealous that now these come with black little handle grip accents instead of red ones? And I don't need a new one because this one works perfectly well. But I wish this one had black. So I just trim off the side and trim off the edges, just cutting down that strip right around the sentiment. And now I have my little sentiment strip and I'm bringing over a card base, and this is Nina Solar White Classic Crest in the 110 pound version. So just setting that right on top and taping it down. And then I'm going to start to assemble my card. And I'm laying this out, seeing what I want, seeing how I think these look best. And I like that first placement. So I use foam tape to pop up the flower image, but I taped the leaves down flat with tape runner. So the only real dimension on this card is the flower. Well, and the sentiment. I also put foam tape behind the sentiment. You'll see that in a second. So just sticking down those leaves where I want them, and then I know I can stick my flower down. I'm very liberal with foam tape and foam squares, as you'll see in a second. I'm very paranoid about things getting flattened in the mail. I once had a shaker card break open in the mail. So it was more like a confetti surprise for someone than a shaker card. I'm sure that was very fun to clean up. I think that one actually had seed beads. That's like even worse than just sequins. So anyways, I'm liberal with my foam tape after that instance. So I don't want anything to get flat. So I am lining this up, and I'm lining it up using the scored design. And then because it's on an angle, I just freak out and think it's not going to be straight. So T-ruler to the rescue. This is the best $2 tool that you can buy. And that is almost the card. I bring out some pretty pink posh. These are the droplets, which I really like for flower cards. And I'm bringing out some multimedia matte and my little jewel picker tool. I really struggle with the bottle of multimedia matte. Am I the only person? Like, you'll watch here. There are some times where I have to two-handed squeeze this bottle to get something out. Is that the bottle, or is that the applicator tip I've put on it? This is a really good question. Please let me know in the comments below. Because it's painful. And so picking up those last few and sticking more glue on, if you've been watching right now, you realize that I squirted off some glue on that little scrap, and then I put my sweater sleeve in it. So yes, I did get glue on my sweater. I think it will come out in the wash. We'll see. It's not laundry day yet. So just putting those on, and then that will do it for the card today. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any of the new sets from the new Altenew release. And please subscribe if you would like to see more videos. Thank you so much.